Howdy, everybody. Welcome back. Happy Skews Day to you. It is August 8th, 2023. I'm Trey. I'm back this week. I heard Mark and Corey had a fantastic time last week, but I'm back in the saddle. Mark, there you are. What's up?
Yeah, but we got a fun show doing more updates from the free state of Florida, and it's escalating world history and education. Was Frederick Douglass actually opposed to slavery? The answer might be more complicated than you think. No, it isn't. But since you were gone last week, or me and Corey talked about aliens, thought I'd do a little treat for you up top
Yeah.
before we get to the show. It's a new alien story. This headline: Peruvian villagers report attacks by 7-foot armored aliens resembling Green Goblin from Spider-Man. Uh, the story made me laugh for a lot of reasons. One's the story itself, which is pretty funny, and then there's the conspiracy theory I have, which I'll get to in a little bit, about what's actually happening here. But so this is in a rural district called Alto Nene, which is northeast of Lima, in the outskirts of the Amazon. The people in this village of 1,300 people say they're under attack from 7-foot tall armored aliens, just like the Green Goblin from Spider-Man. And these extraterrestrials have large heads and yellowish eyes, and they've been launching nightly attacks in communities since the 11th of July. One of them is pretty scary. A 15-year-old girl was grabbed from behind and said her neck was cut. It doesn't sound like she was seriously injured, but that would be bad. These are indigenous people, a tribe called the Ikitu, and they say the aliens are immune to their hunting weapons. They've been trying to kill these motherfucking aliens with bows and arrows and spears and shit.
Yeah, well, use what you got, I guess. Hasn't part of your thing been like that alien sightings and alien abduction stories and all that are strictly a Western phenomenon, or even more so like a British Anglosphere? That's the word I was looking for. An Anglosphere. Well, here you go, Mark. See, other people getting on board. All right.
They are exceedingly rare in the southern hemisphere outside of Australia and the rest of Asia. But people started. They appear incredibly convinced of this. They've established nightly patrols to defend the village and hunt the aliens. Some of the villages liken the aliens to Palacaras, which I guess something from indigenous folklore, talk about beings that live in the forest and feast on human organs. So do you want to do how this is definitely aliens thing, or do you?
Well, I don't want to. It's like, I feel like most of the rest of the stuff, we've heard so far indicates that they're not like usually openly, directly hostile, so this seems to be a bit of a departure for me if they're just wantonly attacking people. Also the Green God. Also, it was kind of funny to me. Just the reach of American pop culture, I guess, because this is an indigenous tribe. Did they describe them as the Green Goblin? Because that's wild to me.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't know they had the Green Goblin and, indigenous Peruvian tribes or whatever. That's pretty crazy. I don't know.
Cultural hegemony, baby.
Yeah. Seems like something's after them, but it could be, I don't know, mercenaries or something like that. People with gear, kitted up.
Yeah, that's good. That's my conspiracy theory. We'll go back to that in a second. So, I'm fascinated by all things Amazon because the Amazon is truly wild. It's very remote, sparsely populated. Governments can barely oversee it, and it's sitting on a bunch of valuable real estate and extremely valuable minerals. So it's literally the Wild West, where you have all these extractive industries like rogue cattle ranchers and rogue mining, interests doing physical battle with indigenous people who often are armed with guns and just shoot at them, while the government either is indifferent or mildly fighting it.
Right.
So, my assumption was oh, these are this is a part of Amazon that's full of rogue gold mining operations, and I was just assuming that these are some a Scooby-Doo operation where people mercenaries or mining company employees are dressing up like aliens trying to scare these indigenous people off the land.
It would be kind of funny if they maybe funny is not the right word, but if that's what's happening and they are familiar with the local folklore, right? And that's why they're dressed up like that, is because they're oh, we're trying to make them think it's Pelacaras or whatever you said the word was. And then that's their whole plan. And then the locals skip right to no, it's aliens that look like Green Goblin. You know what I mean? They got to the mercenaries are back at their HQ.
Yeah.
I did not see that shit coming. I thought we had an ironclad plan with the Pelacaras get ups.
Yeah. That's more American cultural hegemony because they wanted to use our alien phobia, but instead they went straight to the Green Goblin.
Yeah.
Oh god, America's a wild place. But so is Peru apparently. So I hope, wish these the Kitu people luck fending off this alien invasion. Because like if it is aliens, this is the funniest fucking thing an alien could
Yeah.
do. Is just spend time at
I know.
around a remote Amazon village, be like boogity
Well,
boogity
that's what I
boo,
was
and then
thinking too. Well,
disappear.
it's like, well, Mark, you don't know. There could be a crashed spacecraft from a previous mission,
Oh,
years and years ago that just happened to land somewhere in the Peruvian wilderness, right? And now they've
mm,
had to come back to retrieve it, like what, ancient artifacts, some Indiana Jones type shit, you know what I mean? And like an old temple down there or something that you're trying to access.
yeah.
You didn't think about that, did you?
Good. These are all good theories.
Yeah.
These are all good theories.
Before
Yeah.
we continue, this is completely random. It just hadn't occurred to me until I said the date up top, as I always do. And sorry if this is a stupid question, but is today like important to Nazis or anything like that? White supremacy? Is it like Hitler Day or anything? Because
It is
it's
8.
8/8, eight
So
eight
8 in Nazi iconography, 8 still the eighth letter of the alphabet. So
eight.
Hail Hitler.
Oh, Hitler,
You
yeah,
can see Nazis use 88.
right.
Yeah.
So is today like a big day for them or anything? They celebrate
I don't.
today or anything like that?
I don't know. I haven't seen anything about the date.
Right.
Usually, I just saw like people were going crazy over Robert Kennedy, RFK Jr. posted a thing about Secret Service protection where he used the numbers
14 and 88,
88,
right? Because 14
which
is
14 is
the white supremacist
14
slogan or
words.
whatever. Yeah,
Yeah.
14 words. Yeah, something about securing a future for cracker babies.
The white,
Yeah.
Yeah, secure. We must secure the future for white children. So it has up to 14 words. Whatever the slogan is. I don't know it off the top of my head, and I would be suspect if I did.
Yeah, right.
Speaking of weird troglodyte conservatives, today is election day in Ohio. One thing on the ballot, I think, which is Proposition 1, which we talked about a couple weeks ago. This is the one that would raise the standard for constitutional amendment to 60% to the state constitution because there's a ballot initiative that's going to be on the ballot in November that's supposed to make abortion rights in Ohio constitutionally
right.
protected.
And they basically
and
know that they pretty much know, or at least very much assume that the abortion rights thing is going to pass by somewhere between 50 and 60%, right? So to get out, they're trying to get out in front of that.
Literally 59%.
Right.
The last I saw was 59%.
They're trying to get out in front of that and make it to where you got to have at least 60% for something like that to go clearly expressly for this purpose, which is like it's them just baldly admitting, like, we know that the majority of people in the state want this to be the way things work. So we got to fucking do something about that, or else the will of the people might prevail, which we can't have that.
Yeah, that. No. So a villain here is the Ohio Secretary of State named Frank LaRose, Republican, obviously. He's been very open about this after trying to be conniving about it. This is about abortion. In his words, keeping a radical pro-abortion amendment out of the Constitution.
How radical can something be that has the support of 59% of your electorate or whatever? That's like by definition not radical.
A consensus position.
Right.
Yeah. So this guy, he's elected Secretary of State in 2019, I think, or 20, I forget, it doesn't matter. But he's running for Senate. He's trying to run against what's the guy's name from Ohio? He's a good senator. I can't think of his name off the top of my head. The Democrat there, Sherrod Brown. So he's going to be running for Senate. So he's sort of violated tradition in Ohio, which is by being an openly partisan Secretary of State, which is kind of like a no-no because your job's to run the elections, not take sides and stuff. But he's been very active taking a side on this. He was supposed to do a big public event today to make a big deal out of him going to vote at his local polling place and do a press appearance. But he was scared off by a giant angry protest. Matt, you want to play the video of this protest he was scared of?
Hey, ho, ho! Frank LaRose has got to go! Hey, hey! Ho, ho! Frank LaRose has got to go! Hey,
that's a riot. Right. It's a riot waiting to happen right there. I don't blame him for fearing for his life. But yeah, he said it would turn into like a Antifa rally, and so he wasn't going to take any part in that. And there's 8 people there.
Yeah. A lot of activists have been we talked about how optimistic they were that this was going to carry the day pretty easily, including Matt, our producer. His organization, Rural Organizing, has been heavily involved. in this campaign, doing door knocking and yard signs and stuff, and polling in southeastern Ohio, that Appalachian part of the state. And even in rural Ohio, this was polling favorably. That's the no side, which is the let's keep majority rule in Ohio side. Like as of Wednesday, last Wednesday, more than 500,000 people had already voted by mail or in person. Early voting's been booming. That was like nearly double the final early voting figures for Ohio's 2 previous midterm primary elections, which included races for governor and Congress. So people are more fired up about voting for this than they are an actual person, which makes sense. Looks like Dave Wasserman has called it. I was going to give you what the voting totals are right now, Matt, but Matt's already skipped ahead. Yeah, it's with 21.4% in. No is beating yes 69.9 to 30.1. So yeah, it's so overwhelming they just went ahead and fucking called it. Yeah, so congrats to Ohio on
it's one of those things that feels
evil.
like you shouldn't even have to like be forced to vote on. You know what I mean? It's like just seems very fundamentally democratic in nature, the idea that majority should rule or whatnot. So good on Ohio. It's also like, you know how like whenever like the filibuster comes up, like getting rid of the filibuster, I feel like a lot of times some of the Democrats are like, well, we can't do that because sometimes we need it too. You know what I mean? Like when the shoe is on the other foot, right? So we can't do anything right now. But that logic doesn't apply here to Republicans in Ohio, right? Because they know they're not going to want to have another constitutional amendment anytime soon or whatever. You know what I mean? Like if like they generally are not the party of changing shit. Do you know what I'm saying? They want things to stay the same. So like it doesn't bother them the prospect of requiring 60% to pass an amendment in the future, even though it could possibly shoot them in the foot. But either way, I guess the point is moot because Ohio did the thing. So congrats, Ohio, and to Matt and to all y'all.
It is weird to have they thought they could have a big vote and get everybody to vote on whether or not their vote should count. They thought they would vote against it.
Right.
But yeah, Matt said that it was pretty obvious to everybody. The ads got more and more desperate. Matt said the recent ads are running in Ohio were basically like, vote yes or transgender people will groom your kids. Mm-hmm. It's like, what? It has nothing to do with any of this. It doesn't. It only bank shot has to do with abortion. It's just a ballot initiative about whether or not voters can change the Constitution.
Right.
So congrats to majority rule continuing in Ohio. So last thing before we get to the show, I want to shout out a skewer named Sterling who wanted to let everybody know there's an anti-racist rally coming up. Yeah, I think it's this Saturday. There's an organization called American Renaissance, or a conference called the American Renaissance Conference, which is run by out and out white nationalists. And they're going to be holding their big conference in Burns, Tennessee. They hold it in a public park. And the reason I can gather why, it's Montgomery Bell State Park in Burns, Tennessee, an hour outside of Nashville. Anti-racist organizations have been pretty successful at getting their hotel bookings and stuff canceled. So I guess they're just having it at a park.
Yeah.
And they've been beefing at this park, the state over this park for a while because the state makes them pay for to use it. And they're like mad about having to pay. Anyway, if you guys want to get involved, you can go to idavox.com. If you just Google American Renaissance Conference, no safe space for hate, you'll find information on it if you want to hit up Sterling and get involved. So thanks for doing the Lord's work, Sterling.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's, like you said, Burns, Tennessee, which is near Nashville, like an hour outside of Nashville. So middle Tennessee, the old stomping grounds there. All right. Well, let's get into it. I'm Trae. That's Mark. Matt is with us as always. This is Weekly Skews. Before we continue, I, of course, need to remind y'all of a couple of things. First, if you'd like to see me perform live, go to TraeCrowder.com. I'll be in Burlington, Vermont next weekend. And a lot of fun places coming up after that. Texas, a big Ohio run in September, and plenty of other places too. And adding more dates all the time. So, yeah, go to TraeCrowder.com. Come and see me. Also at TraeCrowder.com, you can find a link to pre-order the book I've written with me and with Corey Ryan Forrester called Round Here and Over Yonder, a front porch travel guide. And there's more to it than that, but we don't have to read the whole thing. It's a funny travel log about the United States and England and Scotland from our perspective. We think it's hilarious. We hope you will too. So you can find a link to pre-order that on TraeCrowder.com as well. And lastly, if you enjoy this program and would like to show your support, you can do so by signing up on Patreon. You go to weeklyskews.com/more, or you can just go on Patreon and look me up. Either way, you'll find it. $5 a month gets you access to full-length bonus episodes. We're currently in the middle of our third, I think, Q&A. We cover all kinds of topics we don't get to in the main show, things we want to talk about, but we also do Q&As where we take questions and comments from you lovely people, the skewers, and then we answer those. We started it last week. We're doing the second half this week. It's a lot of fun. So, yeah, sign up on there, support the show, get some more Skews in your life. Now, as for the show tonight, the state of Florida continues waging its ongoing war on the concept of learning stuff for children being taught facts and things of that nature by aligning themselves with notable antagonists to the concept of learning, PragerU. We'll talk all about that a little later. But first, the Daily Dumbass. Matt, graphic, please. Tonight's DD, Fannie Willis for her star-crossed love affair with Freeway Ricky Ross, at least according to this feller.
They waited, and I probably have another one. They say there's a young woman, a young racist in Atlanta. She's a racist. And they say, I guess, they say that she was after a certain gang, and she ended up having an affair with the head of the gang or a gang member. And this is a person that wants to indict me. She's got a lot of problems, but she wants to
All right,
indict
you cut it, Matt. So he's talking about Fannie Willis, and like you got to like try to figure out what the hell he was talking about, accusing her of having an affair, because it's not like even the Fever Swamp's internet, I couldn't find a story about what the fuck he's talking about. She's the DA in Fulton County who's about to indict him for, trying to overturn the election there. And apparently before, I guess Trump flipped the order of events around of her life story in his head and then inserted some fan fiction. Because so what happened was, like, right now she's running a RICO case against Young Thug and his associate rappers, YSL. Before she was DA, she was a defense attorney. She was a judge before that. Before that, she was a defense attorney. She represented a rapper named YSL Mondo, who's also affiliated with this group. So he seems to have made her defend YSL Mondo after she was a prosecutor, and then inferred that was because she was having sex
Loved
with him.
Yeah, right.
And so anyway, that's your journey through Trump's mind palace right there. So like, he's not the head of a gang. Also, he's just a rapper. I don't even fucking know what.
It's also funny, just like he also called Alvin Bragg a racist, right? I feel like anytime it's a black person that's coming after him, he has to just explicitly refer to them as racist because obviously, what else could it be about? But yeah, can you just I guess you can. I know that what's the slander laws and defamation and stuff like that in this country is pretty hard to do or to fight or whatever. But it's just kind of wild that it's former super high profile position he's in, can go up there and just literally make shit up about this other public figure.
Yeah,
but, that's
God bless America, baby.
Bread and butter.
So you run your mouth about whatever you want.
Yeah.
For the most part, within reason. We'll probably come back to that in a second because. This is a speech he gave in New Hampshire today, which is all over the place. He talked about how you can't wash your hair anymore because the faucets don't have enough water. It's normal shit.
Joe Biden taking the water? God damn. I knew it.
Yeah, Joe Biden took all our water.
The stoves, the cheeseburgers. Now it's your water. Can't even have water anymore.
He gave a preview of his defense strategy in the January 6th case. I shouldn't call it the January 6th case, the overturn the election case, because he wasn't actually charged in incitement related to January 6th. But so he's saying his defense is going to be affirmative that he actually did win the election. Now, he's saying he's going to introduce that 2,000 Mules documentary into evidence, which is fucking hilarious because there's no way the judge is going to allow that. And his lawyer should probably quit if Trump's trying to make him do that. He also, there was a Rolling Stone article talking about what Trump's plans for once he retakes the White House. They basically already have a government, a DOJ in waiting with plans to prosecute everyone who investigated him. So this is a really weird situation where Jack Smith has taken Trump to trial and whoever loses is going to jail. Oh God! Wild times in America.
It's appropriate. It's like a cage match or something like that, or table match.
Loser leaves town.
Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, Sunday.
Yeah. Some more highlights from this speech. This is just hitting right here. If you want to play this Chris Christie.
Yeah.
Clip,
yeah.
Who's good? No, he's eating right now. He can't be bothered. Sir, please do not call him a fat pig. That's very disrespectful. Don't call him. See, I'm trying to be nice. Don't call him a fat pig. You can't do it. You can't
All
do
right.
that.
Yep. Just the worst person in the world.
Yeah.
All
You
right.
know, there's going to be so much more of that, dude, over the coming months. It's going to be some
Yeah.
wacky, wild stuff coming out of his mouth.
I know he made his doctor lie about his weight, but do you think he thinks he's thin?
I mean, I wonder that all the time. I think that all the time with him. It's like, does he not realize what, he looks like? Because he has, does he have reverse or is that still body dysmorphia, but just the good kind or something? Do you know what I mean? Like where
I don't know.
is like reverse
I've never
body
thought about it.
dysmorphia or something? Like he looks in the mirror and sees the versions of him that they paint when they paint him, stiff arming
Yeah.
somebody at the goal line with rock hard abs or shirtless with a Tupac tattoo or whatever. Does he actually see that when he looks in the mirror? Because I mean, Christy bigger, but like Trump ain't good. Actually, on a related but random note, I randomly saw somebody found an old tweet from Carrie Lake earlier, like in November of 2016, right after he got elected. And it was her saying, congratulations to all the obese Americans for getting one of their own in the White House, fattest president since Taft. Which I mean, that's true, right? He is the fattest president since Taft, right? Think about it. Pretty sure.
Yeah. I mean, LBJ was like the 60s version of thick. I'm trying to think.
Right.
But like that doesn't compare to a modern American version
Right.
of thick. But like, so anyway, I guess he's got beer muscles like Homer Simpson when he looked himself in the mirror and saw like repping pecs and shit. So in other Trump world legal news, so Giuliani, we talked about this lawsuit before. He's being sued by a former assistant named Noelle Dunphy, who he tried to hit with a countersuit to be dismissed. So she hit back with transcripts of audio recordings that she has of him saying some absolutely wild shit. These were filed last week. Here's America's mayor, Rudy Giuliani. Quote, Jewish men have small cocks because they can't use them after they get married, whereas the Italian use them all their lives so they get bigger.
Yeah. That's how he thinks wieners work. Like it's like the use it or lose it doctrine applies to your
why does he think married Jewish people don't have sex?
Yeah, that too. That's also weird. Like they don't use it after they get married. Yeah, I don't understand. But it's like he thinks like eventually your wiener just shrivels up and blows away if you're not getting any. Or conversely, it just swells to elephantine proportions if you're doing pretty well.
Maybe I think it's like a literal muscle. It gets
it's like lifting weights. Exactly. He thinks like it's like lifting weights, but for your dick. Yeah, he's wild.
Giuliani. He also railed against how Jewish people, quote, want to go through all that freaking Passover all the time, and they should get over the Passover because it was 3,000 years ago. Quote, okay, the Red Sea parted. Big deal. Not the first time that happened.
Yeah. What? When else did the Red Sea part? Also, like I don't feel like I've ever heard Jewish people, going on and on about the Red Sea and Passover. I feel like that's not a thing that they can't get over. You know what I mean? It's mostly just like the temperature of the soup at the diner or whatever. You know what I mean? Like that.
Right.
That type of
there's another part where the transcripts where they're talking about which celebrities might be Republican. And he was trying to think of somebody, and she suggested Matt Damon. And no, he suggested Matt Damon, and she says, Matt Damon's very liberal. I don't know his politics. And the Giuliani countered, Matt Damon is a use the F word slur. Matt Damon is also 5'2", eyes are blue, coochie coo. Apparently some song from the 1920s.
His brain is mush, man, or something. It's got to be. This is just like the incoherent ramblings of a lunatic, man. Matt Damon's also 5'2", eyes are blue, coochie coo. Not true. He's definitely not
some
5'2".
song from the 20s.
Okay, I was about to ask if that was some kind of reference because it sounded like it must be. But also, it's ironic that he called Damon the F slur because Damon himself famously retired the F slur a few years ago from his own vocabulary. So that had to hurt poor Matt.
Matt Damon's 5'10", by the way, according to the internet, if anybody cares. Anyway, but that a lot of stuff was just in the lawsuit to embarrass him. But the main stuff is about him sexually harassing her, which is the weirdest part of this. Let me quote from Giuliani here again, former America's mayor, credible presidential candidate at several points. Come here, big tits, Giuliani says on one occasion. Come here, big tits. Your tits belong to me. Give them to me, indiscernible. I want to claim my tits. I want to claim my tits. I want to claim my tits. These are my tits.
Pretty straightforward, that one. Yeah. Man knows what he's about, I guess. But
Yeah.
speaking of conservatives and their sexual proclivities or lack thereof, either way, our first honorable mention for Daily Dumbass is evangelicals for lying and saying they don't want to hear all about hot premarital sex. This is from a Republican
Nancy
congresswoman
Mace.
speaking, Nancy Mace,
Yeah.
speaking at a Tim Scott thing.
Prayer breakfast.
Yes.
Another year, another standing room only event. And when I woke up this morning at 7, I was getting picked up at 7:45. Patrick, my fiance, tried to pull me by my waist over this morning in bed. And I was like, no, baby, we don't got time for that this morning. I got to get to the prayer breakfast. And I got to be on time. And a little TMI. But he can wait. I'll see him later tonight.
All right. So
the part's like, no, honey, why can't you throw down right now? I got to make it to the prayer breakfast. That kind of sounds like a Leanne Morgan bit to me or something. If y'all know Leanne, and I love Leanne Morgan. I'm saying like she could really do something with that. But yeah, Southern comedian. If y'all don't know, her Netflix special is very funny. But anyway, yeah. So Nancy there, as you know, she said fiance. So it's not her husband she's talking about. And the horror, audible gas.
Yeah, and she's old enough to be. I don't know how old enough she is, but it'd be weird if she was a virgin.
Yeah, 45, I think, is what I saw somewhere.
It'd be Nancy Mace 45. Yeah, it'd be uncommon. Let's say if she's a virgin. I don't want to judge anyone else's choices as far as when and where they make love. But so, like, one thing, the people at the prayer breakfast are weird for being offended by this, and they were weird. That's some hoe talk tweeted a Florida congressional candidate, Laverne Spicer. Here's your reminder that Nancy Mace is trash, wrote a conservative comedian a comedian said that with 800,000 followers. A bunch of people online were mad at her for this shit. She can't read the room, but I honestly, no one, including her, seems to have a good handle on whether these people actually believe what they profess to believe. But I would have went with probably in this setting.
Right. Yeah.
Right? They don't approve of fucking outside of the confines of marriage, and you show up there and open with a story about how you,
Yes, but at the same time, and I mean, she's a woman, so obviously pretty different, but like, at the same time, Donald Trump's got porn star lawsuits and multiple marriages and all that shit, and he's their God emperor, you know what I mean? So it's like, they're oftentimes completely okay with it, but again, she's a lady, and so that makes it very hoary what she was saying. But also, dude, every goddamn one of them's porking before marriage if they're not currently married. Like, give me a fucking break.
For sure. The whole thing was just very deeply weird and funny to me. Like, I had sex before marriage.
Yeah,
not
because you're fucking cool. That's why. Yeah, exactly.
But I wouldn't go to my mom's church group and talk
about it. Yes, for sure.
Right.
Yes. I mean, you're right about that. It's a prayer breakfast. It is kind of an odd thing to bring up.
So I can't figure out who's weirder here. It's just a matter of tact, I think. I don't think anyone did anything wrong. Yeah. But like the fact she's a part of this retrograde movement that wants to take away women's rights while bragging about how she's using her right to have sex outside of marriage. Like, what would you do if you got pregnant, Nancy? Right?
Yeah.
So like it's like just like none of I can't figure out what these people actually think. I guess they have beliefs. They don't think their belief system should apply to them or constrain their behavior, I guess is the gist of it. But anyway, yeah, that was just funny to me.
It is funny.
Nancy Grace will now never be president, right? Even more so.
Yeah, I'm about to say, I don't think that was in the cards anyway, but yeah. All right, so let's talk about Florida.
All right, so we talk a lot about Florida, because DeSantis is burning it down in a vain attempt to be president. But it's also the third most populous state. I know we have some viewers outside the country who might not realize that. A shit ton of people live in Florida, and I don't know, 20-some% of them voted for DeSantis. The rest of them either didn't vote, can't vote because they're felons or their kids or whatever. So they don't deserve to be subjected to this shit. But like, we talked a couple weeks ago about how the new educational standards are like saying that you're going to teach kids that like people learn valuable skills under slavery or whatever, which is ahistorical nonsense. And like, we already talked about that, but this is like even more nuts. PragerU, which is Dennis Prager's outfit, which is not a university at all. It's just a place that makes YouTube videos,
right,
has gotten some of its videos approved as supplemental curriculum for use in schools. Now they're unaccredited. They're just a right-wing advocacy group. They don't know anything about anything. But we're going to show you some of these videos in a minute. But these weird cartoons, like some of the 5 videos are titled Do you understand the Electoral College? Was the Civil War about slavery? And I bet their answer is no without watching it. The Inconvenient Truth About the Democratic Party, Why I Left the Left, and War on Boys. These are the type of videos this organization makes. And Florida has become the first state to recognize PragerU as an approved education vendor, and 10 more states in the process of granting the same approval. Now, it's not clear what schools, just because they're approved doesn't mean schools will use them, but I think they might to avoid the headache from the state. So that's the part we're going to get to in a little bit. But this is the kind of stuff we're going to talk about if you want to play this first video, Matt. This is Christopher Columbus talking to a couple of cartoon kids.
I'm sorry, Mr. Columbus, but I heard at school that you spoiled paradise and you brought slavery and murder to peaceful people.
Leo?
Sorry. It's what I read and heard at school.
Caramba! Those are some accusations. The place I discovered was beautiful, but it wasn't exactly a paradise of civilization, and the native people were far from peaceful.
I'm sorry, Mr.
Okay.
So maybe me and you're, getting up there in years, haven't been in like elementary school in a very long time. And also I was in Tennessee, you're in like rural Virginia. Maybe things have changed, but like that's not even a little bit what I heard about Christopher Columbus in school. You know what I mean? Like it was always very much the opposite, really. I was like, the main thing was he sailed the ocean blue that one time. I forget. But and found America. There was Indians there. They had Thanksgiving, whatever. Pilgrims came. That's pretty much the whole thing. They definitely were not going in on Christopher Columbus for, being the rampaging, colonial slave driver or whatever that he actually was.
The thing that most people know about Christopher Columbus is that poem that was written in the 1800s about what you just quoted, "Sailing the Ocean Blue." But none of it, you don't need to rebut kids' assumptions that Christopher Columbus was a genocidal maniac, because they're not even fucking taught.
Exactly right. That's exactly what I'm saying. It's also and we're going to watch some more of these videos, but one thing I take a little bit of solace in, I think, is I'm just assuming that any kids who are subjected to these videos are going to immediately have their eyes glaze over and not really take in or retain much of it anyway, because they're off. As somebody who has kids and everything, this is not going to hold kids, young kids' attention at all. They're atrociously boring, and thus perhaps will be ineffective as propaganda measures. I hope.
No, it's more like they're pre-inoculating them against ever learning any real history when they do become old enough to learn about what Christopher Columbus was actually up to, right?
Right.
If they were going to remember anything, it's going to be the Indians, the natives, ravages, and he civilized them, which is to that message, which no one's saying that the New World was Shangri-La before white people got here. It's just they didn't deserve what happened to them. It's that part. Those two things are disconnected. Everybody everywhere had wars. There were probably a criminal among the population that he conquered. It doesn't mean everyone doesn't have to be a great person in order to fucking.
I know. Well, sometimes these people talk about, they'll bring up the different native tribes and stuff like that, and they'll be like, that they had all kinds of wars amongst themselves. They were killing each other, doing all kinds of crazy stuff or whatever. And it's okay, so that's why they deserve to be genocided with smallpox or whatever. It's because that's the sort of, it seems to be what you're inferring. And I'm not entirely sure that I agree with that.
Let's, I wanted to listen to some more lessons these kids are getting in these videos. One of them has a narrator explaining that embracing climate denialism is akin to participating in the Warsaw Uprising. There's one with a character named Mateo, who's the son of Mexican immigrants, who learns about the myth of police racial profiling and the importance of supporting the police to protect his neighborhood from rioters. Some videos tell children to not feel guilty about using plastic or expound upon the virtues of Reaganomics. They're going to tell 8-year-olds about Reaganomics and how the war on drugs was good. Side note: the Reagan video also used the opportunity to praise him as being popular, handsome, a talented actor, and good at sports. All right, the rest of it we could argue about. He was not a good actor. All right, he was in movies with monkeys.
Yeah, Bad Time for Bonzo, I believe.
Yes. Yeah. Which is nothing wrong with being in a movie about with monkeys. Maybe you could have won an Oscar if you were in better movies, but I'm saying you don't have any proof of it. Right. I'll be if somebody wants to put me in a movie with a monkey, it'll be the best days of my life. So please hire me to be in a movie with
I
a
would
monkey.
love to be in a movie with
But
a
so
monkey. But yeah, it's funny that all these like historical inaccuracies and stuff that you're like the one that absolutely cannot stand is that Ronald Reagan was a good actor. And I'm with you.
yeah. There's like a Nickelodeon like gross out game show like Double Dare where they quiz children on the lives of people like Ayn Rand and Amy Coney Barrett. Can you like you're a fucking 9-year-old, you just want to go to recess and you gotta learn about Ayn Rand?
Yeah, that's awful. Also, the kids in the game show, is it just an excuse to slime kids or something? Are they really getting the questions right about fucking Ayn Rand and Amy Coney Barrett? Because that would be wild.
Yeah. Maybe they just slime the feminist kids.
Yeah.
Or like if you have two mommies, you get slimed.
Yeah.
There's the one that like probably the funniest one. It's an instructional video telling girls that conforming to gender stereotypes is a great way to embrace their femininity. I quote, most gender stereotypes exist because they reflect the way men and women are naturally different, and those differences aren't bad. Yeah, because boys would naturally play with trucks. A lot of times, that's fair. Some like to play with dolls, though. That's fine, too. But the videos encourages girls to, quote, master the art of makeup, not, quote, expose the parts of your body where they send the wrong message, not to develop the reputation of being a gossip, and to be grateful when a man goes out of his way to show you respect, and also to smile.
Mhm.
The official position of the state of Florida on what women should do is smile more,
Yeah,
you'll look prettier.
and not be a sorry ass ingrate and recognize how good you fucking got it. That's how that's the official state of the Florida Board of Public Education.
The one that was like most weird to me is there's one that's a dramatization of the supposedly civilizing and benevolent era of British colonial rule in India, which that's not even their fucking fight.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
That's one I don't have to participate
Right.
in. That's between the South Asians and the British. You know, they can let them do their own arguing over revisionist history. But like the one that is our fight is like, you know, America's original sin or whatever, and you better believe they got takes on slavery. There's one which the vibe is weird, but like the message is like these two kids are apologizing to Booker T. Washington for slavery, the same two kids in the other videos, and it goes like, well, you have nothing to be sorry for. I'm like, no one's arguing that 10 and 12-year-old kids in 2023 named Cotter and Madison are personally responsible for slavery. No one
I know,
thinks
but
that.
that's like, but that is like fundamentally their whole thing that they've built up in their head when it comes to critical race theory and stuff is like literally exactly that. That's what they have convinced themselves is happening, or what the problem is that like Connor and Madison are being like pointed at and blamed for slavery in school every day, and it makes them feel bad at nighttime or whatever, which yes is of course ridiculous. Again, we all, depending on where you grew up in varying degrees, but we're taught about slavery. And I never remember feeling like, again, you feel bad. You should feel bad. The subject is slavery. It'd be weird if you felt good, but I didn't feel like personally responsible for it when I was 9 or whatever.
White guilt, to the degree people have it, it's like a survivor's guilt. It's not like a direct responsibility guilt. It's like, oh shit, I feel bad that other people had to suffer shit I didn't. Right? It's like not
empathy,
it's not direct responsibility. Yeah. It's like when somebody says, "Oh man, I'm sorry that happened to you," and they go like, "Well, you didn't do it." I'm like, I'm not saying I'm responsible for it. I just feel bad.
Right.
That thing happened.
Yeah, right.
So, but this one, like, here's one with Frederick Douglass, which absolutely distorts the history of the Civil War in really crazy ways. And I'll have to get you to pause at a couple points, Matt, to tell you what I'm talking about. Then you got
children. Our founding fathers knew that slavery was evil and wrong, and they knew that it would do terrible harm to the nation. They wanted it to end, but their first priority was getting all 13 colonies to unite as one country. The southern colonies were dependent on slave labor, and they wouldn't have joined a union that had banned.
They were dependent, right? The framing is that it just happened.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody did it. It was just a thing. It was like the weather. It rained.
Right.
Anyway, yeah, get play, Matt.
Are you okay with that?
I'm certainly not okay with slavery, but the Founding Fathers made a compromise to achieve something great, the making of the United States. It was America that began the conversation to end it. But Leo is correct that...
All right. So, interesting framing there. It was America that began the conversation to stop it. If you want to make that case, you got to point to the fact that one of the first governments to ban slavery in the Western Hemisphere in the colonies was the state of Vermont. All right? You can make that case. America started the conversation to end it, but you got to include some other information that, like, for example, like Haiti was the first country to do so, and the rest of the world held them hostage to make them basically buy their own personal freedom from France, and they're still in debt because of it. It's one of the reasons Haiti is so poor. Denmark, Netherlands, France, UK are all among the countries to beat us to outlawing it before we did in 1860, whenever the Civil War was over. And it was formally made illegal with the 13th Amendment. Cuba and Brazil were after us, which is why the Confederates fled there, including Jefferson Davis fled to Cuba, so you could keep having slaves. But like, those are just like stone cold facts. That like slavery was a temporary problem that everyone agreed needed to be ended, but they had to work around. That's not remotely true. They're using they with the founding fathers like they were like a consensus group instead of a bunch of motherfuckers that hated each other.
Right. And plenty of them like owned slaves, and we know that.
Right.
And I know that they, like with some of them, like Washington or whatever, it's like, yeah, he did own slaves, but he was like, oh, after I'm dead, then you can free them, because I do feel kind of bad about it, but I'm still going to keep them for now, though. And that type of shit. But like, still, yeah, it's not like they were united in their disgust for slavery, the founding fathers, and yeah, like it was like fierce opposition to the idea that we shouldn't have slaves in this country by a whole big chunk of the powers that be for a very long time. Sort of how that whole war thing happened.
Right. And play the rest of the video.
Big problems need to be approached very carefully. Have you kids heard of William Lloyd Garrison?
No. Nope.
He's an abolitionist like me, and he and I used to be friends, but we aren't any longer. We don't agree how to solve problems. William refuses all compromises, demands immediate change, and if he doesn't get what he wants, he likes to set things on fire.
Sounds familiar.
Sounds like you know the type.
Stop it.
Right. Wonder who could be talking about there. Like,
just a side swipe of the Black Lives Matter movement from Frederick Douglass of all fucking people. So, are you familiar with William Lloyd Garrison?
I mean, I remember learning about him or whatever, but I don't remember. I can't sit here and give you details about his life or whatnot.
Me neither. It was like a name I remembered hearing once, and I was like, "Oh, what's the deal with that guy? What's he even referencing? Why does Dennis Prager have a big beef with him?" It's because he burned a copy of the Constitution in July 4th, 1854, in Massachusetts, and him and Douglass were like, I guess, allies for a long time in the abolitionist movement. Garrison's a weird guy. He went back and forth between a pacifist and like a violent anarchist who supported John Brown. And I mean, I can understand how being horrifically offended, rightfully so, by the institution of slavery could drive someone to not having consistent views about whether or not you should kill all the motherfuckers doing it. But like, so they did have a parting of the ways, of the minds, when so Garrison burned the Constitution because he thought the whole thing needed to be started over because it was so pro-slavery. And Douglass thought that you could work within the frame, the Constitution could be construed as an anti-slavery document. It might just need amendments, but you could do so without destroying the government. You can understand why a person who's in a minority would not want the complete chaos and anarchy of not having a fucking government, especially coming off the heels of a civil war where at least you were safe in half the country, kind of, right? Anyway, but if you think that Douglass was some sort of softy about slavery or slave owners, here's a quote from him in 1852 about the fugitive slave law. The only way to make the fugitive slave law a dead letter is to make a half dozen or more dead kidnappers. He's talking about murdering slave catchers.
Yeah.
Right? He was not morally neutral in the question of slavery or forgiving to the people that perpetrated it. This is like all like maddening. And like you said, it won't, I doubt that kids will stick with this much longer. But here's a college professor talking about this guy named Michael Butler. Gave an interview today at a couple days ago to a Florida paper, where he says at the college level we're going to have to do a lot of deprogramming, and that resonated with me because one of the things that radicalized me leftward is like when I got to college, learned actual history, and realized that all the people around me have been lying to me my entire fucking life about the nature of reality and history. And so why are these setting kids up? If they're not indoctrinated, they're going to go the other direction. Like, this is going to backfire on all these parents who are trying to coddle Madison and Connor. And I don't know. It's just extremely short-sighted to me.
Yeah, well, I saw somebody say, like, I've seen people hypothesizing or whatever that it's all about just like an attack on the public education system in particular to like fast track the idea of privatizing it or whatever. So they're just trying to like basically make the public education system like inoperable or whatever, eventually just trying to blow it up from the inside because they want it to be privatized and that whole thing. So
Yeah. A school board member in Hillsborough County, Hillsborough, Florida, made that point this week when she found out, basically after the decision had been made, that the school was basically eliminating a lot of Shakespeare from the curriculum because it's too much sex in it. Yeah. So her exact quote was, she blamed the Department of, it's a woman named Jessica Vaughn, who's, like I said, is a school board member, said that blamed the Department of Education, the State Department of Education, and the legislature. Honestly, it feels like much of this is intentional in order to cause as much chaos in public education as possible so the collapse of public education is swift and the agenda of education privatization can move forward with less obstacles. Because this is like, in 2023, with every kid having a smartphone and parents not knowing how to block the internet, thinking that kids are going to get horny because they're showing complete texts of Shakespeare instead of just excerpts that are scrubbed clean.
right.
What planet are you
I know.
on?
Yeah.
Like, it's just making kids dumber. Like, you're not going to stop kids. What kid is reading Henry IV and feeling like he should like give it lose their virginity? I don't fucking understand this thought process at all. But this is why I'm afraid some schools might actually adopt the PragerU stuff, is because it's so much chaos out there. No one knows what the rules are anymore. These school district officials just made this decision because they're afraid, because they don't understand, and they don't want to be doing it. All the teachers are like, yeah, this I can't teach Macbeth under this standard. I don't think I can, so we're just not going to do it because I don't want to fucking end up like in court or in jail or lose my job because I taught Romeo and Juliet. It's like, it's utterly insane to me. Like they're destroying public education so fast. Like, okay, this happened yesterday. On Monday, the deputy general counsel in Orange County, which is Orlando, sent an email to principals announcing new policies for the upcoming school year, basically about what words teachers can and can't use. It says transgender teachers cannot use their preferred pronouns or titles. Like, they can't go by they're born a mister, they can't be missed, right. Basically. They must use the pronoun title that corresponds to their quote biological sex. It also gives teachers, staff, and students the right to misgender trans employees and forbids teachers from asking for students' preferred pronouns. It doesn't say if I couldn't find whether if the kid says they prefer to go by she instead of he, whether the teacher's forbidden from using it. But none of this is going to survive any free speech stuff. It's just going to suck money out of school budgets to fight litigation, because this can't survive any sort of First Amendment challenge. Require people to use language, like it's utterly ridiculous. But there's this whole procedure they established for students who wish to use a name at school that is different from their legal name. Mm-hmm. Like, kids must get their parents to fill out a form granting teacher permission to use any such name as class. And it applies to all students, not just transgender ones. So a kid named Robert who wants to go Bobby will have to get his mom to sign a permission slip.
Yeah. Small government, Mark. Yeah, it's small government conservatives for you. Yeah.
One of my best friends in high school changed his name like 5 times for 9th grade because it was Jimmy, Jim Bob, then James Robert, then JR. Right? Mm-hmm. It's like he would have to get like 10 different permission slips signed for every one of those fucking changes. And none of this makes any sort of sense.
Yeah, part of they had that that Florida new regulation that like defines sex as being a immutable trait assigned at birth or whatever. And so because of that, the idea of being transgender is invalid basically. And so that's like their basis for why the teachers can't use any other pronouns or that type of shit. So it's literally just like, I mean, they're literally legislating these people out of existence, or trying to, like, that's baldly what they're trying to do, which is pretty wild. Yeah. But he'd been bragging about it. That's that whole video kerfuffle he had. I mean, it's his whole thing. He's like, yeah, I'm going after him, taking him down.
We just had a whole election cycle that was based upon dumb transgender shit, and the Republicans horrifically underperformed, and they're just doing it again. Like, I can't understand. Somebody should raise their hand in one of their meetings and be like, hey, besides all this hate being evil, it's not actually helping. But like, also, like, just, I've made this point before, but there's nothing less American than not minding your own fucking business. Just mind your business. It's a very easy solution to this. Just mind your business.
Yep. Yeah.
Man.
Amen, brother. All right, Matt, find us some comments there. We're actually getting to them this week. That's fun. Got 10 minutes left to talk to the people. We're going to check in on the Ohio results, but we already did that. That happened real quick.
I'll update 33% of the vote in just so you can see how the it's a little closer than it was. It's 63.2 to 36.8 with a third of the votes in. So yeah, maybe it's gonna be funny if it still would have passed the 60% threshold.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. What do you got for us, Matt?
Well, Matt's finding some stuff. Another educational fuckery over in Houston, which has had their school district taken over by the state. They decided to eliminate librarians in a lot of schools and turn libraries into discipline centers at 28 campuses. So no books, but jails. Yeah.
Fun. Philemon van der Beek, I'm sure that's not how you want me to pronounce it, but it just felt right. Very fancy name there. Says Republicans are self-destructing, hence why they have to try to change all the voting rules so they have a chance to stay in charge. I mean, yeah, it's been like the thrust of their whole thing for a while now with like gerrymandering and the voter restriction laws and all that shit. It's all about them realizing that, you know, they don't represent the will of the people or have the support of the majority of the people or whatever, so they have to bend the rules in whatever fashion they can to maintain their grasp on power.
Vivek Ramaswamy, part of his, the dipshit running for a brand campaign for president. Part of his campaign is like raising the voting age to 25 and making it so you have to pass a citizenship test to vote, which would be really fun if 66-year-old Republicans had to pass the same test immigrants do to vote. That'd be really funny because they couldn't do
get
it.
smoked. Yeah, absolutely. Nisa Howard says, "What's your guys' reaction to the Alabama boat dock thing?" Oh yes, the Battle of Montgomery, the Bama boat dock brawl. I mean, I know Mark feels the same way, at least in part. One of my favorite things about it has just been watching the response to it and all the resulting memes and reactions and stuff that have come out of Black Twitter or the Black internet in the wake of that brawl, because it's been truly wonderful. It's been absolutely hilarious.
It is. Like, I haven't seen, you expect to see like the grifters on the right. I haven't even seen like somebody like try to make it out like any of the people who defended the dock worker were in the wrong. That's been kind of like everybody's on the same side.
I know. I think it's because like we all saw the video or whatever, and it's like, they swarmed him. It's like 5 on 5 or 6 on 1 or whatever. All, a bunch of white dudes. It started out 1-on-1, one white guy, one black guy, and then like 4 or 5 other white dudes run in. And, like even the dipshittiest of conservative commentators, like, what argument can you make? And I'm kind of surprised that they're not doing something about how, like, well, actually, that black guy's got a criminal record, and you know what he said. I'm kind of surprised they're not doing that sort of thing, at least. I mean, I just feel like they don't really have a leg to stand on with this one, because it's pretty cut and dry. It seems to me.
I saw a couple hours ago. 3 people caught charges so far, and all 3 of them were the shirtless white boat guys. Although I would anticipate the guy who hit the lady with the chair is probably going to catch a charge. Just move your boat.
Just move the boat. Absolutely.
The original dock worker guy kind of had a badge on his shirt, so he's sort of a cop, so maybe that's part of it. But like, it's also just like a little harmless brawling. It's like an episode of Dukes of Hazzard or something where they're just like hitting each other with the chairs and shit. It's fine. It's just the South, man.
I don't know what they expected to happen, considering the sheer number of the amount of support that they evidently had there just out of frame before the brawl started. Some motherfuckers came in. That one dude literally jumped in the water and swam over there to whip some ass.
My kid had a publicist within 12 hours. He's 16.
They deemed, the internet deemed him Aquaman and Michael B. Phelps.
I saw that one,
SEA murder. Albrina says, I guess they tried it in a small town and fucked around and found out. Yeah, that's what people made an edit of the brawl with "Try That in a Small Town" playing over it, which is great. Jules T says, I knew the minute the guy tossed his hat, I knew this is going to be epic.
My thing is like, okay, so at every point, the chuds. I saw we shared. There was a viral post where someone said that people were racist when they got to the hospital. They're using the N word. I haven't
Yeah.
seen any. I haven't seen any other like second source or anything for that. I have no idea if these people are racist. People are assuming that because they're white and in Montgomery, Alabama, with boat money. It's fair. It's a fair profiling,
assumption.
I guess.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
But like at every point, they could have de-escalated. They could have moved their boat eventually. When they got untied their boat and shoved it off, your boat's not irretrievable. You're literally in swim trunks. Just jump in the water and go get the boat. Like there's no point to resist it. Any like stop resisting. Just move your boat.
Mark, if you'd been
Yeah.
standing there on that boat dock when all that went down, obviously not with those white guys, you were just there in the proximity. What would you have done? If you're run off, just filmed it. You know what I mean? Like, you don't end up collateral damage or whatever, or
Well, there
like,
was a coworker of the dock worker dude who tried to intervene. He was like looked like a teenage white kid, and he got shoved away, and they jumped him too. So like my instinct is always to peacemake in those situations. I would have like
Yeah.
got in between and break it up if I did.
I know, but
anything,
I mean,
yeah.
I'm kind of the same way, but like we'd have got our shit wrecked if we'd done that. You know what I mean? It's like a dude in like a trench coat, you know, trying to help the cops during a school shooting or something like that. You know what I mean? The cops are gonna be like, he's
Yeah.
one of them.
Yeah,
You know?
that's true. You're saying I would have got my shit wrecked by the black folks. Oh yeah. I see.
Yeah,
I see what
just
you're saying,
right,
yeah.
just because. Yeah,
Yeah.
right. They're not gonna know. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
I do look like part of the problem.
Yeah, right. Judy Kidder Browning says, any thoughts on the latest George Floyd cop conviction?
I didn't see that.
Yeah,
You're
you know, if he
welcome
didn't
to
see
do
it, I
something
didn't
I-
see it.
Yeah.
I always just smile and nod at this point in the show while Mark gives a cogent response.
Oh, okay. Yeah, one of the other cops, the bystander cops, the Asian dude. I gotta see now. Yeah, I mean, like they were more focused on crowd control than stopping. Derek Chauvin was their training officer, so there's a power imbalance there. But when you're watching somebody commit murder, even if you're a trainee cop, your instincts should probably be like, "Yeah, I should." Instead of trying to stop people from filming this, I should be like, "Hey, Derek, what's up with the knee, buddy? The guy's subdued in cuffs." Yeah.
What's
57
you
months.
just looked it up? What do you get?
57 months.
All right.
So for almost 5 years. But I imagine with good behavior, if he behaves good, it'll probably be like 3.5. I'd imagine. Yeah.
Laura Borealis back again says, hey Trey, will there be an audiobook version of your book with Corey? Yeah, absolutely. I just recorded it the week before last. Posted a little montage I made of myself doing it too. It's on my pages if you want to check it out. But yeah, me and Corey are reading the book, and it should be fun.
I was going to say, I knew the answer to that
it.
one because Corey sent me extra video clips of him trying to do it, making himself laugh where he couldn't get a take. So
Gutter Viking says, thanks for mentioning the AmRen protest, guys. Love y'all. Everyone who can come out, please do. I don't know if that's Sterling
Spencer.
or a compatriot
Yes,
of
Sterling.
Sterling.
Yeah, that is Sterling. I remember his Twitter handle was Gutter Viking. So,
Gutter
thank
Viking.
you, buddy. Yeah. Yeah, go annoy the shit out of those racists. I think the people who want to go back to the Renaissance and antiquity is so weird to me. They complain about modern architecture like it's the fault of like liberal progressivism that buildings are more boring than they used to be when Romans had slave labor or something. Just shut the fuck up.
Yeah, people that romanticize the past in any capacity has always been kind of wild to me on account of just all the, plague and death and murder. And also, and the fact that like in most of the world, the vast majority of us would have been like peasant underling trash with no rights at all, who would have just been stepped all over by the powers that be. It's like you watch those like old timey shows or whatever, and you might put yourself in the position of the characters or something, but it's like these are fucking nobles and royal. Like I'm the dude outside plucking a goose, getting you're getting used for target practice and shit. Like I don't want no part of that.
They'll show a Western, but like they show the guy riding into town and riding out of town. They don't show that it took him like 9 days to get between the towns.
Yeah, right. Yeah,
he didn't have an iPod. He didn't have deodorant. He had to look for water. That sucked.
Yeah, it does suck. All right. Well, thank you guys for being here. We appreciate it. Let me remind you again real quick as we close. Go to TreyCrowder.com. Get your tickets. Come see me on the road. You can pre-order me and Corey's book on there as well. You can also go to weeklyskews.com/more or look me up on Patreon. You can sign up on there $5 a month to get access to bonus episodes of this here show and support us in the process. Either way, the important thing is keep coming back on Skews. And if you do, we will too. We'll see y'all 7 days from now.